is going on, everyone? So Star Wars The Last Jedi releases in exactly 1 month, and I'm so excited for that movie. It is my most anticipated movie going forward the rest of 2017 and was definitely one of my most anticipated movies of the year. I've been looking forward to this movie so much since The Force Awakens released, and with the release of The Last Jedi, I felt it was necessary for me to tell you guys a little personal story of myself and how I became a Star Wars fan, because so many times when I've talked about Star Wars in the past, I've mentioned that I'm a huge Star Wars fan. Star Wars has been a big part of my life for many years now. So this video will touch on all the points of how I became a Star Wars fan and how I've developed as a Star Wars fan over time to the fan I am nowadays. I mean, who doesn't like a personal story, especially when it revolves around Star Wars? I know I do. So looking all the way back of my timeline of me being a Star Wars fan, I believe the first movie I actually watched was Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. I remember going to my neighbor's house on multiple occasions and we would watch Star Wars Episode 2, and this was about probably a couple months before Episode 3 came out. But the funny thing is, with our viewings for Episode 2, is that I believe it would always just cut all the way to the end of the movie where we get the big battle sequence and all the lightsaber battles are happening. I think that's where we would start every single time, because that's by far where the movie is the most entertaining. And that's just a little funny thing, because I don't even remember watching any parts having to do with Padme or Anakin prior to the whole Coliseum battle sequence when I first started watching Star Wars. And I thought to myself, this is really cool, Episode 2. A lot of Jedi, a lot of cool lightsabers, a lot of cool battles. And I realize nowadays that the movie is really not that good. So it's kind of weird how that was the first Star Wars movie I watched as a kid, because so many people out there, they always say, my first Star Wars movie I watched was the original Star Wars from 1977. For me, it was different. I grew up first with the prequel trilogy, specifically Episodes 2 and 3. Then I remember Episode 3 came out, but I did not see that movie in theaters, but my neighbor did, who I always would watch Episode 2 with. And I do remember asking him one time when we had a neighborhood party, saying, what happens to Anakin? Did he die at the end of Episode 3? And he says, no, but he gets an arm chopped off and both of his legs. And then when I was about 8 years old, I'd say probably second grade, I do remember buying Episode 3 on DVD and watching that movie and becoming in love with it. And that's probably one of the reasons why I just love Episode 3 to this day. It's the movie that I grew up with originally, more so than Episode 2, since I never actually watched a full movie as a kid until a little bit later. Episode 3 was the first full Star Wars movie I watched, and to this day, yeah, there are some problems with it, but I still think it's a really great movie, and I don't have many flaws with it at all. It's a movie I grew up with, and I still really enjoy it. Now, this is where the timeline gets a little muffled for me. I can't seem to recall if I got Episode 1 first or Star Wars the original first, but I'm just going to go ahead and say that I proceeded to get Episode 4, Star Wars A New Hope, the original movie, of course, for Christmas. But I have a little funny thing to say before I go into that. I do remember one day playing the original Lego Star Wars, and I played that with my neighbors. And I remember specifically saying to my one neighbor, I can't wait till Episode 4 comes out. And he looks at me and says, it already did. And I said, really? So then around third grade, I would say I was given the original Star Wars for Christmas, and I watched that movie the first time, and I remember being in awe with that film. To this day, this movie is still a masterpiece. I think it's fantastic and one of my favorites of all time. I would say it's tied. I can't really put it over 3 and 5. I have such difficulty picking between those three. Even Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, I think, is a great movie. And those 4 in specific, I would say, are all fantastic films. And I have a lot of difficulty picking which one is my favorite. So a lot of times I would say I like all 4 of those movies together. And then I went on to get Episodes 5, The Empire Strikes Back on DVD, as well as Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. The first time I actually watched The Phantom Menace in full was in my car. We had one of those cars where you have a TV screen in the back and you can watch a movie, of course, in the car ride. And I don't remember liking it as much as the other movies. I thought that Episode 3, 4, and 5 were definitely better, but I still enjoyed some of the scenes in episode 1, especially the pod race was one of my most memorable moments that I can think of, as well as the finale of that movie where there is a lightsaber duel with Darth Maul and all those things going on. It's kind of a messy ending. And here's a funny thing with Return of the Jedi. I didn't get it on DVD right away. The first time I actually watched Return of the Jedi was with my friend Ryan, who went to my grade school. And I remember going over his house when we watched it for the first time. I laughed plenty of times, and I just loved it. And I was also kind of confused because we watched the new cut that they had where they implemented new things into the movie, which I can agree or disagree with. Some of the CGI looks better and is updated. But the one thing that confused me as a kid was when you see the Force Ghost at the end when they're all celebrating, and you can see Anakin's Force Ghost, and it was Hayden Christensen and not the original actor. That would have been a little bit cooler, but seeing Hayden Christensen there, I was confused, and I was saying, how were they able to do that? But then I realized, years later, they just had a new cut come out of the movie. And from that point onward, it was between 2007 and 2015 before we got another Star Wars movie. And my same friend Ryan, I do remember in the 3rd grade, he said that they were planning on making an episode 7 coming out in 2009. Obviously, that never happened, which was extremely disappointing. But thankfully, we did get The Force Awakens eventually. And since 2007, I would probably say I've watched episode 3 and 5 the most. Not as much 4, but I do give it views every once in a while. Probably once a year, maybe either once every 2 years. Episodes 1 and 2, I completely cut through those movies. I only watch the scenes that are entertaining because we all know those movies are very boring to me, especially episode 1. I cannot even watch that movie nowadays unless it's the end. And I even lost my DVD for episode 3, which is disappointing, but I was given for Christmas 2 years ago. Episode 3 on Blu-ray. It was a steelbook. That's what I showed you guys back in my Blu-ray update in May. And of course now I have both The Force Awakens and Rogue One on Blu-ray. I have the whole collection, whether it's on DVD or Blu-ray. And that's pretty much my story, guys, on how I've become a Star Wars fan and how my fandom has evolved over time. I still think 3, 4, 5, and 6 are the best movies, and I hope episode 8 can be really good, but we'll have to see. I wasn't the biggest fan of episode 7. I liked it, didn't love it necessarily, but I think episode 8 has a lot of potential. So if you guys enjoyed this video of how I became a Star Wars fan, let me know down below in the comment section if you guys have any similar stories that you'd like to tell, or if you guys would like me to review episodes 3, 4, 5, and 6, even 1 and 2. Why not? I don't really care. I can review any of those movies for you guys leading up to The Last Jedi within the next month. I can give my full-on opinion. Let me know if you guys would like me to do that. So the next week and a half is going to be pretty big for my channel. I'm going home next week, and I plan on seeing plenty of movies, starting with my review for Justice League. I am seeing that movie tomorrow night. Also, I missed Wind River back in August, but I did get the DVD to rent, so I might review that for you guys, as well as I missed a couple of movies in the past couple of weeks, such as Thank You for Your Service and Murder on the Orient Express. I plan on catching up those reviews for you guys. And also next week we have the reviews coming out for Coco, and I hope to also see Darkest Hour starring Gary Oldman about Winston Churchill. So I have a plethora of reviews coming out for you guys. Get ready for all of those. Please leave a like on this video, and if you're new to my channel, click that subscribe button and follow me on Twitter at SvenSulley and follow my Snapchat at SvenMovies. Thank you all so much for watching this video, and I hope you all have a fantastic day.